Walk into any grocery store in the United States and head to the bread aisle. The shelves are lined with soft loaves promising whole grains, freshness, and better-for-you ingredients. But here's what most shoppers don't realize. Much of the bread sold in US grocery stores isn't made the way bread traditionally was. It's engineered to stay soft for weeks, survive long supply chains, and look the same every time. That matters because bread is rarely questioned, it's trusted by default. And that trust is exactly what allows heavily processed loaves to dominate the grocery shelves. In this video, we're breaking down 10 bread brands commonly sold in the US that you should seriously reconsider buying, why they're so heavily processed, and how they differ from bread made with basic traditional ingredients. And at the end, I'll show you better bread options that are easier to find than most people think. This isn't about avoiding bread, it's about knowing what you're actually buying. Number 1, Wonder Bread. Wonder Bread is one of the most iconic bread brands in the world. It's soft, inexpensive, and instantly recognizable, which is exactly why so many households still buy it without a second thought. But that signature softness isn't natural. It's the result of heavy processing. Wonder Bread is made using highly refined white flour that's been stripped of fiber and many naturally occurring nutrients. To compensate, synthetic vitamins are added back in later through enrichment. On top of that, added sugars, emulsifiers, and preservatives are used to create a loaf that stays soft and visually appealing for far longer than real bread normally would. Most people don't realize that bread like this behaves more like a packaged snack than a traditional food. It digests quickly, provides very little satiety, and doesn't offer much in the way of substance. Traditional bread made from flour, water, yeast, and salt naturally dries out or molds within days. When bread stays fresh for weeks, it's because chemistry is doing the work, not baking. Wonder Bread markets comfort and nostalgia. What you're actually buying is an ultra-processed product designed for convenience and shelf life, not quality or simplicity. Number 2, Sara Lee Classic White and Wheat. Sara Lee often positions itself as a step up from basic white bread. Many of its loaves are marketed as soft wheat or whole grain, which leads consumers to believe they're making a smarter choice. But the ingredient lists tell a different story. In many Sara Lee breads, refined flour is still the primary ingredient. Whole grains, when present, often appear in smaller amounts, mainly to support front label claims. Added sugars are common across the lineup. Dough conditioners and preservatives are also used to maintain softness, structure, and long shelf life. These ingredients help the bread perform well in distribution and storage, but they move it further away from traditional bread making. Real whole wheat bread is typically denser and more filling. Sara Lee's versions are engineered to feel light and soft, closely mimicking white bread while carrying a healthier image. It's not that these loaves are unsafe to eat. It's that they're designed to look nutritionally improved without meaningfully changing the underlying formula. Number 3, Pepperidge Farm Soft Breads. Pepperidge Farm carries a more premium reputation than many bread brands. The branding emphasizes tradition, care, and old-fashioned quality, which leads shoppers to assume the bread itself is closer to something homemade or bakery style. Some of Pepperidge Farm's specialty loaves do use better ingredients and simpler formulas, but the soft sandwich breads that most people buy are a different category entirely. These loaves are engineered for consistency and long shelf life. To achieve that, added sugars are commonly used to enhance flavor and promote even browning. Oils and dough conditioners are added to keep the bread fluffy, flexible, and resistant to drying out. That signature softness is not the result of simple baking techniques, it's the result of formulation. Traditional bread made with flour, water, yeast, and salt naturally firms up within a few days. It may dry out, it may stale, that's normal. When bread stays soft and springy for extended periods, it's because ingredients have been added to control moisture and texture. Pepperidge Farm isn't the worst option in the bread aisle, but it's also not as close to traditional bread as the image suggests. The uniform appearance, predictable taste, and long-lasting softness come at the cost of simplicity. When bread looks and tastes exactly the same every time, regardless of batch or season, it's usually because natural variation has been engineered out. Number 4, Arnold and Oro Wheat Breads. Arnold and Oro Wheat are often marketed as hearty, better-for-you bread brands. Their packaging is filled with reassuring language like whole wheat, multigrain, and ancient grains, all of which signal health to the average shopper. Those terms sound meaningful, but they don't tell the full story. Many Arnold and Oro Wheat loaves are still built on refined flour bases. Whole grains may be present, but they're often not the foundation of the bread. Seeds and grains are frequently added for visual appeal and texture rather than serving as the primary structure. They make the bread look more nutritious without fundamentally changing how it's made. Added sugars are used to improve taste and softness. Preservatives are included to extend shelf life and maintain consistency across large production runs. The result is bread that looks hearty and wholesome but behaves like a processed product. It stays soft for long periods and delivers a uniform eating experience. Most people don't realize that multigrain simply means more than one type of grain is included. It does not mean those grains are whole, sprouted, or minimally processed. These breads are carefully positioned to appeal to health-conscious shoppers while stopping short of using shorter, simpler ingredient lists that more traditional bread relies on. Number 5. Dave's Killer Bread. Dave's Killer Bread is often held up as one of the better choices in the bread aisle. And compared to conventional white bread, some of its loaves are an improvement, but not every product under the Dave's label meets the same standard, and that's where confusion sets in. Several Dave's varieties contain noticeable amounts of added sugar. That sugar contributes to flavor, softness, and browning, but it also shifts the bread closer to dessert territory than many consumers realize. Other varieties rely on oils and dough conditioners to keep texture consistent across large production runs. The ingredient lists are longer than most people expect from a brand associated with health, transparency, and simplicity. That disconnect matters because shoppers often assume all Dave's products are close to bakery-style bread. They're not. Dave's Killer Bread is still a packaged, mass-produced product designed to remain stable on grocery store shelves for extended periods. It's formulated for consistency, not variation. Local bakery bread changes from batch to batch. It stales quickly. That's normal. Dave's sits in the middle ground. It's better than many mainstream brands, but it still involves compromises. If you're choosing it intentionally as a package option with somewhat better ingredients, that's reasonable. If you're buying it expecting the simplicity of flour, water, yeast, and salt, it's important to understand what you're actually getting. Number 6. Nature's Own Bread. Nature's Own markets itself as simple and natural, and the name alone suggests minimal processing and straightforward ingredients. But when you look at how the bread is made, the image starts to break down. Many Nature's Own loaves rely heavily on refined flour as their base. Added sugars are common and used to enhance flavor and softness. Preservatives are included to extend shelf life and prevent mold. The result is bread that stays soft and visually fresh far longer than traditional bread ever would. That longevity is convenient. It reduces waste. It makes storage easier, but it's not how bread behaves when it's made from just flour, water, yeast, and salt. Traditional bread dries out. It stales. Eventually, it molds. When bread remains soft and flexible for weeks, it's usually because ingredients have been added to control moisture and slow spoilage. Nature's Own isn't positioning itself as artisan bread, but many consumers assume it's closer to that ideal than it really is. In reality, it's another example of bread engineered for convenience, shelf life, and mass appeal rather than simplicity or traditional baking methods. Number 7. Ezekiel Bread. Ezekiel Bread is often praised as one of the healthiest breads you can buy. And nutritionally, it does stand apart from many conventional loaves. It's made from sprouted grains and legumes rather than refined flour. That changes the nutrient profile and gives the bread a much denser texture. But this is where context matters. Ezekiel Bread is not traditional bread and doesn't behave like a typical loaf, and it doesn't work the same way for everyone. And because of its density and unique composition, some people digest it well and feel satisfied after eating it. Others experience bloating or discomfort. This doesn't make Ezekiel Bread bad. It makes it specific. It's also processed in a different way than most breads. To maintain safety and shelf life, Ezekiel Bread relies on freezing and strict temperature control. That's why it's usually sold frozen or refrigerated, and this isn't a warning to avoid Ezekiel Bread entirely. It's a reminder that healthy isn't universal. Ezekiel Bread is a specialized product designed for a particular audience. If you like it, digest it well, and understand what it is, it can be a reasonable choice. But it's not a direct replacement for simple, traditionally baked bread. Number 8. Store brand white and wheat breads. Most grocery stores sell their own house brand bread. It's inexpensive, familiar, and always stocked. These breads are typically produced by large commercial bakeries using the same formulas found in national brands. The labels may change, but the ingredients rarely do. Refined flours are the foundation. Added sugars improve flavor and softness. Preservatives and dough conditioners extend shelf life and maintain texture. The goal is efficiency. Store-brand bread is designed to be low cost, easy to transport, and resistant to spoilage. It's built to sit on shelves for long periods without changing. What you're not getting is fresh bread or traditional bread. You're getting a standardized product engineered for durability. There's nothing surprising about that. The issue is that many consumers assume store brands are simpler or more basic. In reality, they often follow the same processed formulas as the brands they're trying to undercut on price. If your priority is cost and convenience, these breads deliver. If your priority is ingredient simplicity, they usually fall short. Number 9. Gluten-free packaged breads. Gluten-free packaged bread is one of the most misunderstood categories in the bread aisle. For people with celiac disease or medically diagnosed gluten sensitivity, gluten-free bread isn't optional. It's necessary. The problem is how most packaged gluten-free breads are made. Without gluten to provide structure and elasticity, manufacturers rely heavily on refined starches like rice flour, tapioca starch, cornstarch, and potato starch. These ingredients help recreate the look and feel of bread, but they offer very little nutritional value on their own. To hold everything together, gums and stabilizers are added. Xanthan gum, guar gum, and similar additives are common. Oils are used to improve softness. Sugars are often added to improve flavor and browning. The end result is a product that looks like bread but behaves very differently in the body. Many gluten-free loaves are low in fiber, quick to digest, and highly processed. Most people don't realize that gluten-free is not a health claim. It's a medical accommodation. For consumers without a medical reason to avoid gluten, packaged gluten-free bread can actually be more processed than traditional wheat bread. This isn't an argument against gluten-free bread when it's necessary. It's a reminder that ingredient quality matters even more in this category, and that gluten-free should never be assumed to mean cleaner or simpler. Number 10. Generic whole wheat. Breads with long ingredient lists. Whole wheat bread sounds straightforward. Wheat, flour, bread. Simple. But this is one of the most misleading labels in the bread aisle. Any bread labeled whole wheat that comes with a long list of unfamiliar ingredients deserves closer scrutiny. Whole wheat bread does not need emulsifiers, dough conditioners, stabilizers, or multiple added sugars to exist. When you see ingredient lists filled with compounds you wouldn't recognize from a kitchen, that's a sign the bread has been engineered, not traditionally baked. In many of these products, whole wheat flour may technically be present, but it's often combined with refined flour to improve softness and consistency. Added sugars help mask bitterness. Preservatives extend shelf life. The result is bread that carries a healthier label but behaves exactly like a processed product. It stays soft for weeks. It tastes the same every time. It resists staling in ways real bread doesn't. Most people assume whole wheat automatically means better. Manufacturers know that, and they design products to meet the letter of the label while avoiding the simplicity consumers expect. If the ingredient list is long, complex, and filled with additives, the label on the front matters far less than what's printed on the back. Now let's talk about what you should buy instead. Number 1. Fresh bakery bread. Fresh bakery bread is one of the simplest upgrades you can make. Bread baked in-store or at a local bakery usually has much shorter ingredient lists, often limited to flour, water, yeast, and salt. That simplicity matters. There's no need for preservatives, dough conditioners, or added sugars when bread is made fresh and sold quickly. Because of that, bakery bread behaves the way bread naturally should. It doesn't last forever. It dries out. Eventually, it molds. That's not a flaw. It's a sign that nothing artificial is holding it together. Fresh bakery bread also tends to vary from batch to batch. The texture might change slightly, the crust might be lighter or darker. That variation is normal and expected when bread isn't engineered for consistency. If you eat bread regularly and have access to a bakery, this is often the most straightforward option. You know what's in it, you know when it was made, and you're not relying on long ingredient lists to keep it edible. Number 2. Sourdough with simple ingredients. Real sourdough is another strong option, but only when it's made the traditional way. True sourdough relies on natural fermentation from a starter, not commercial yeast. That fermentation process takes time. It also limits the need for added ingredients. Traditional sourdough usually contains fewer components and develops more flavor naturally. It doesn't need added sugar for taste or browning. It doesn't need oils to stay soft. Many grocery store sourdoughs are sourdough in name only. They include yeast, sugar, and flavoring agents to mimic sourness. When choosing sourdough, ingredient lists matter. Look for flour, water, salt, and starter. Nothing else. Real sourdough stales faster than processed bread. That's expected. If you want bread with structure, flavor, and fewer additives, traditional sourdough is a reliable choice when it's made properly. Number 3. Sprouted grain breads with minimal ingredients. Sprouted grain bread can be a good option when it's made simply. Sprouting grains changes their structure and can alter flavor and texture. The key is ingredient restraint. Better sprouted breads rely on sprouted grains as the foundation, not refined flour with a few sprouted ingredients added for marketing. Short ingredient lists matter here. Added sugars should be minimal or absent. Oils and conditioners should be limited. Sprouted grain bread tends to be denser than white bread and more filling. That's normal. What you want to avoid are sprouted breads that try to mimic the softness of white bread. That softness usually requires extra processing. When kept simple, sprouted grain bread can be a reasonable packaged option, especially for people who prefer denser loaves but still want convenience. Hashtag 4. Frozen clean ingredient bread. Freezing is often a better preservation method than additives. Some smaller bread brands choose to freeze their loaves instead of loading them with preservatives. That choice usually signals a simpler formula. Frozen clean ingredient bread often contains fewer additives because it doesn't need to survive weeks at room temperature. Once thawed, it behaves like fresh bread. It stales. It dries out. That's expected. The trade-off is convenience. You need freezer space and a little planning. But if the alternative is a long ingredient list designed to extend shelf life, freezing is often the better option. This approach prioritizes ingredient simplicity over constant availability. Number 5. Read ingredients, not labels. The most reliable habit is ignoring front of package claims and reading ingredient lists. Words like whole, natural, artisan, and multigrain are marketing tools. They're not regulated in a way that guarantees simplicity or quality. Ingredients tell the real story. Bread doesn't need a long list to exist. When you see emulsifiers, conditioners, and multiple added sugars, you're looking at engineering, not baking. Short lists aren't a guarantee of perfection, but they're usually a step in the right direction. Choosing bread becomes much simpler when you focus on what's inside the loaf instead of what's printed on the front. Here's the bottom line: bread should be simple. When it becomes overly engineered, consumers lose sight of what they're actually eating. Avoiding these brands isn't about being extreme, it's about choosing bread that matches your expectation. If this helped you see the bread aisle differently, subscribe for more breakdowns like this, and check out the related videos for other everyday foods worth questioning.